Hey guys, check it out. You're watching Jonathan Clarke on YouTube. Oh no! You guys can perhaps hear the wind blowing behind me in the background, and the story behind it is I've always lived in the most haunted place in the world. And to be honest with each and every one of you, I've had the time of my life, sharing with you all these legendary ghost stories that are associated oftentimes with the story of Descendants of Zombies, which has always been an incredibly beautiful story to me. And I've loved having the opportunity to share it with each and every one of you. So I think that living in one of the most haunted places in the world that are often associated with ghost stories, stories of pirates, and even mermaids, fits perfectly with the Descendants of Zombies franchises. I feel like my entire life has felt like a Disney movie because every night of my life I've told the story associated oftentimes with some of the most successful Disney classics of all time. Stories about Beauty and the Beast, stories about Sleeping Beauty, even Snow White and the Little Mermaid, who are princesses who were never given enough credit. One of my favorite Disney princesses of all time had to have been Belle from Beauty and the Beast because of her story that she shared with the Beast and their mutual understanding of how they came to terms with how they loved each other, and they realized that more than anything else in their entire lives, they wanted to spend the rest of their lives together. And then the story of Aurora, where she fell under a deep sleep after she had been cursed after pricking her finger on the spindle of a spinning wheel on her 16th birthday. We all remember those stories. And we've all grown particularly fond of those stories through the years, and that's what Descendants of Zombies has illustrated for us, just how precious these stories have been, because they are timeless classics. And when we saw the daughters and the sons of these beautiful Disney villains brought to life, that's what really gave us a greater appreciation for Descendants of Zombies. And I've really had the time of my life sharing with you these stories about how I became a fan of characters portrayed by Dove Cameron and Sophia Carson for the first time ever, characters that have forever and always held a very special place in your heart. I would be lying to you guys if I told you that I had never been a fan of Mickey Mouse or all these legendary characters that Disney has created over the last at least 100 years. We are celebrating the 100th anniversary of Disney, and coming off the 100th anniversary of Disney, we have seen over 100 classic characters be created. Characters such as Dumbo, characters such as Stitch, characters such as Peter Pan and Captain Hook, the story of Maleficent and Sleeping Beauty, and how envious Maleficent was always of Sleeping Beauty because she was the most beautiful princess of all time, certainly at least over the last at least 100 years. And these classics have held a special place in our hearts for forever and always. Sometimes these villains have felt very misunderstood, and I think that the story of Descendants of Zombies has allowed us the opportunity to hear these stories from at least their perspective and how they wanted their sons and daughters to ultimately go out and achieve something far greater than they ever imagined that they would be. And I think they have definitely exceeded the expectations of every critic out there, because when it comes to someone like Clarke, I know a lot of people felt very differently about giving her a chance in the Descendants of Zombies franchises, but once we fell very quickly in love with Clarke, we took something special away from her performances as an actress and a singer and the exemplification of the character Red, because even with villains, kindness really does take a person that much further in life, because you make the most beautiful of friendships and you hold them close to you forever and always. Because the one thing that we've learned about Descendants of Zombies through the years is that you've never really needed a whole lot of friends, you just need a few really good ones. You take a look at Mickey and Minnie Mouse behind me there. The thing about Mickey and Minnie Mouse are they fit perfectly together, and all they ever realized were they needed each other in life to help them make sense of everything going on around them. You think about Prince Philip and Aurora from Sleeping Beauty. All they ever wanted was to spend the rest of their lives together. And Belle and the Beast from Beauty and the Beast, they loved each other with all of their hearts. There are people in this lifetime who come into our lives without any explanation being offered whatsoever, but it makes perfect sense how these characters have always and forever represented something special to each and every single one of us, because each and every single time that we may have ever had these conversations, we always take something special away from these conversations and hearing their stories, because each time we hear these stories, we take something special away from them every single time. And I have never felt more honored to share with you my story about how I became a fan of Disney, which ultimately became something more greater than ever I imagined. A fan of Descendants of Zombies, because sometimes as a YouTube content creator, it is very difficult to fall into a niche, to find a niche first off, and to achieve acceptance within that niche. Because you guys obviously saw something special in everything that I wanted to share with you guys about Descendants of Zombies, and you held it close to your hearts. And since holding it close to your hearts, you've always come back to this YouTube channel to see more, to hear my perspective on Descendants of Zombies. It could have had something to do with a prediction. It could have had something to do with me telling you my story about how I was always a fan of Mickey Mouse or Dumbo or Winnie the Pooh, which is a stuffy that is really hard to find, more difficult than probably ever given credit for, because I've been trying to find a Winnie the Pooh to include as part of my Disney stuffy collection for a very long time, and you would never imagine how difficult it is to find a Winnie the Pooh. And you're probably somebody saying to yourself, hey, Jonathan Clarke, I see a Winnie the Pooh at this really cool stuffy store that I go to at the mall every day. Why don't you go there? The thing is, I'm not as fortunate as you guys, and I got a lot going on. But I'm always around, browsing for things to really brighten up this content and really bring this story to life. I would love to get my hands on some Descendants and Zombies merch to give away to you guys long after this YouTube channel becomes monetized, probably included as part of my YouTube backdrop. But I do what works, because I've always wanted to create relatable content for you guys, and I've always wanted to, be a voice that you guys could relate to, that you could have the opportunity to share with me your story about how you were a fan of Descendants and Zombies, because everybody feels differently about being a fan of this franchise, because we've all taken something special away from it, and we've all felt differently about this franchise. Many of us have felt passionate about collecting dolls. Many of us felt passionate about collecting hoodies, even the hoodies that Kylie Contrell, Freya Sky have released, of course, to promote their EP, which are really beautiful. We felt very passionate about, say, drawing our favorite Descendants and Zombies characters and really putting that on display for everybody. And I got to give it to you guys. You guys are very passionate about who and whatever it is you believed in over the years. And since it's become Descendants and Zombies for many of us, I think because moments like these never really happen a whole lot in people's lives, and they are very far and in between, they should be celebrated. And I've just wanted to celebrate that with each and every one of you while giving something special back to the Descendants and Zombies communities. It is a really windy, spooky night out there tonight. Hopefully there are no zombies out on the prowl. I haven't gone out on my graveyard shift yet to keep you guys safe, but that is our secret that we don't have to really tell anybody, because somebody's got to do this, and I've been pretty much doing it for over 30 years. And, if you ask me, if you say, hey, Jonathan Clarke, do you believe that the chances of a zombie apocalypse breaking out and happening for all of us could be more true than ever before? Sure I do. That's why I've lived here in this haunted house, because how else is somebody supposed to share with you his story, he or she's story about being a fan of the Descendants and Zombies if they don't even live the Descendants and Zombies experience? Because once you live the Descendants and Zombies experience, it really brightens horizons. It gives people hope that something special is about to happen for Descendants and Zombies, and I don't know about you guys, but I'm enjoying coming along for the ride, and I look forward to being here all throughout the summer of this year to celebrate the release of Descendants 5 with Wonderland, because it's been a long time coming. And people can't wait. There are people with this date that they imagine it's going to be released on circled on their calendars, because everybody has a different date when it comes to the release of Descendants 5 with Wonderland. Even Zombies 5, a different year. Some people are saying 2026, some people have gone as far as to say 2027, and even 2028. But you know something? Regardless of when it happens, it's going to be something special for everybody. And I have held on to that, and I believe that for forever. Because I know what it's like for a critic to make you feel differently about something you love. Just today I was at the EB Game Store, and I've always been a fan of Power Rangers, like many of you have come to know me over the years. And when I'm talking about being a fan of the original Power Rangers, I'm talking retro Power Rangers, like all the way back in 1993. And you have no idea how hard it is to find retro Power Rangers merchandise from the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers TV series, which first became released in June of 1993. So every single time I have the opportunity to buy some retro video games of the Power Rangers, I'm always at GameStop purchasing up Power Rangers merch. And it's such a huge honor for me to have all the Power Rangers merch as a part of my video game collection, which I'm very adamant about, that I've shared with many people over the years. The point being is I always felt very passionate about the story of the white Power Ranger Tommy and, of course, the pink Power Ranger Kimberly. Kimberly always held a very special place in my heart because I was a fan of Amy Jo Johnson and how she could bring that character to life. And the love story between the white Power Ranger and the pink one just made perfect sense to me. They felt perfect together in a world that oftentimes didn't make sense to a whole lot of people. And the thing is, there are these characters that we could never imagine never being together, that we always wanted to see end up together. Because when we saw Zombies back on February 16, 2018, we could never imagine Zed and Addison being with other people. All we ever wanted to see were the two characters end up together, and that was a love story that meant so much to each and every one of our hearts. And unquestionably, Zed and Addison's love story would go on to hold a very special place in our hearts for many years. And I think for many years to come, to continue on with the story, they're going to continue on to hold a very special place in our hearts. No matter how much, Victor and Nova, Freya Sky and Melika Burton's characters are going to go on to mean to us, we are never going to forget about the contributions of Zed and Addison because they have unquestionably meant so much to each and every one of our hearts. And I think that there are a lot of Descendants characters that we could never imagine spending the rest of their lives alone because, when it came to Mal and Ben's love story from the original Descendants, there was just something that fit perfectly together about them. We could never imagine seeing them with other people. And the thing is, because they connected and they mutually understood each other, it became one of the most beautiful love stories ever told or exemplified or put out there for a Disney Channel original movie. And the thing was, it was so special to many of us. And then we thought about other characters, like, of course, Evie, who should have had a love story of her own and had her own story that could have been told in her own movie from her own perspective. The point being, there are so many characters of Descendants of Zombies' lore and history that have had so many stories that have been left untold or have been left uncompleted. And the thing is, until they are completed, I will always and forever hold on to the belief and imagine that there are so many stars who have stories in Descendants of Zombies that are far from having been told and completed. One of those characters has always been Ruby Rose Turner. Unquestionably, for those people who have been subscribed to this YouTube channel for forever and saw me collect all these Disney stuffies behind me and these Mickey Mouse blankets and all this Mickey Mouse merch that coincides with it, you know that Ruby Rose Turner is one of my favorite characters of all time. If there was one girl out there in this world that I could give that huge Mickey Mouse behind me to, it would be Ruby Rose Turner because I've loved her with all of my heart. I always saw something special in Ruby Rose Turner's voice. I always saw something special in Ruby Rose Turner's ability to bring these characters to life, and that was far more credit than any critic or any journalist ever gave her. And I just always wanted Ruby to know that she always and forever held a very special place in my heart, and I'm going to tell you why. Ruby was just so genuinely kind. There was just something so undeniably sweet about the girl that you could never get enough of. And you always wanted to be a part of whatever Ruby had happening for her. I remember the very first song she ever wrote in the music video that came out for it. It was called Ruby Rock, and she introduced us to her. Her name was Ruby. And I've been introducing myself to the world as Jonathan Clarke for years. I am one of the greatest of all time, and I'm one of the greatest Disney content creators who have often been appreciated for his content over the years and achieved so much rarity. If you guys are looking for a guy who appreciates Descendants of Zombies for all of its worth, then look no further than Jonathan Clarke, because I promise you every single time I will be here to offer you insights on new music videos and incredibly new opportunities, because their horizon has never looked more brighter and the stars have never shined more brighter when it comes to Descendants of Zombies, because I've always believed in this, and to be honest with each and every one of you, I've never wanted to let go of whatever it is that I believed in for many, many years. I've had the time of my life hosting this show and loving your characters just as much as you have loved these characters for what feels like forever, because they still have a long way to go. They undeniably still have a long way to go, and their stories have anything but been, told and completed. And I think that I'm never alone when it comes to having these conversations, because there are far too many people out there in this world who believe the same thing. And I've just wanted to encourage that. I've just wanted to be a part of whatever it is that you guys wanted to be a part of. So when it came to the Worlds Collide Tour, when it came to the story of Descendants of Zombies and these beautiful movies, I just wanted to tell you my story from my perspective and how I saw it. Because the thing was, when it came to High School Musical and Hannah Montana, we felt connected to it because of its music. But when it came to the story, there wasn't really much of a story to fall back off. The thing was, there are so many people out there that felt so passionate about Hannah Montana and even High School Musical. Earlier today, I actually just saw a tribute that somebody had done, a fan art that had been created as a tribute to Sharpay Evans, Ashley Tisdale's character from High School Musical. And I got to be honest with each and every one of you, even though High School Musical didn't really have that great of a story, I miss Ashley Tisdale's character Sharpay Evans because she offered so much to the franchise, and that's why we saw Sharpay's Fabulous Adventure by 2011, because the producers and the writers behind High School Musical believed that Sharpay Evans had more of a story than perhaps ever given credit for. And I think there are so many characters from so many past Disney Channel franchises that should be celebrated and forever and always should be honored. And that's why I've always wanted to have a hand at being the executive producer behind Descendants of Zombies, because there is something so special about these stories that every fan has taken something away from. And I've never wanted to take that away from anybody. I've just wanted to be a part of your lives, hoping that I could represent you as your voice of Descendants of Zombies, because the way I perceive it is these stories are far from over. And as long as we continue to believe that, the stars are really the limit and beyond. To infinity and beyond, to quote Buzz Lightyear, who was one of my favorite Pixar and Disney characters of all time. There was something about hearing Tim Allen say, to infinity and beyond, that you could never seem to get enough of. I actually have a cousin who watches this show who is very obsessed with Buzz Lightyear. I have a niece who is very obsessed with Sonic the Hedgehog. And why do you think that is? They are very obsessed with these characters because they have seen something special in them ever since they could talk. Ever since they knew how to breathe, they saw something special in these characters. And that is something truly undeniable. So the point being, ladies and gentlemen, is if you are ever passionate about anything in your life, let's say Descendants of Zombies. If you're passionate about collecting your Descendants of Zombies dolls or your Descendants of Zombies hoodies that you've never taken off, we only have one life to live. We only ever have one chance to make this life count. And the impression that we leave behind, which eventually becomes our legacy, is all that ever matters to everybody. So let's make it a special one. And let's give people more of a reason to believe in Descendants of Zombies more than they ever have. You know, I may sound crazy for believing in Descendants of Zombies and Mickey Mouse as much as what I do and feel so passionate about them. But the reality of life is, I've had no regrets, and I haven't looked back since. But I have so many wonderful memories that I know that I'm going to leave behind. And the impression that I've left on Disney's legacy is going to be one that I know that I will never ever forget, and I will forever and always cherish, that will hold a very special place in each and every one of your hearts undeniably for many years to come. Because no matter who we are, we've had a favorite character from Descendants of Zombies. We felt as if we were a part of something so special, which is truly undeniable. And I've had the time of my life being a part of that. To have the honor to share with you my story that I wanted to make extra special from every other person who believed in something special having anything to do with Descendants of Zombies was I just wanted to touch your heart. How I was going to touch your heart, I had no idea how I was going to be able to do it. I didn't know if the stuffies were going to cut it, if my opinion on Descendants of Zombies was really ever going to matter to anybody, but lo and behold, I sit here tonight so appreciative over the idea of having over 4,000 people subscribe to this YouTube channel, because they were people who listened to my story about how I felt about Belle and the Beast, or how I felt about Prince Philip and Aurora. It was so fun for me being a part of it, and I'd just like to believe that some way or somehow my contributions will never ever be forgotten, because they come back and have everything to do with each and every one of you. I know that I'm crazy about Disney's characters, and I'm crazy about their stories that they've represented so significantly through the years. So too have your favorite Descendants of Zombie stars. But I know for every successful franchise there will bound to forever and always be critics. But as long as there are critics, our love and our support for these franchises, such as Descendants of Zombies, will continue to outshine every critic's opinion for forever and always, from now until hopefully the end of eternity, which is a really long time. But you know something that YouTube creators should never ever forget is the idea of how somewhere out there in this really big universe, even with how big this universe seems to be on times, and you've heard me quote this many times, there is always a 7-year-old girl between the ages of 7 and 17 who just wants to hear something nice about her favorite character who she sees a hero in. And let's say that character is Red, Kylie Control's character from Descendants. If, say it, that Kylie Control is your favorite character, then continue on believing in her. Don't ever let anybody stop you from believing in her or take that away from you, because again, you only have one life to live, and the most precious thing that we have to look forward to in our lives is time, because we never seem to know how much time we have. So if you are passionate about Kylie Control and you love her with all of your heart, then the best thing that you can do for yourself and your friends and your family is continue to follow your passions, because I'm going to tell you something. You're very honored to be a part of this franchise, and I think more people should be just as honored to experience it with each and every one of you. And I'm just speaking from the perspective of a fan, which is all I've ever done, and I perceived everything with an open heart and an open mind. But the way I see it is, if you love Descendants of Zombies with all of your heart, then we as YouTubers and content creators should cherish that just as much as each and every one of you. So I'm hoping at the end of this 20-minute conversation that we've had, which is a really long time to a lot of people who are probably falling asleep listening to every word that I've said, I'm hoping I've given you a reason to convince you to hit my subscribe button, because honestly, guys, I can't do this without you, and this YouTube channel would have never been made possible. This would have never happened if you didn't believe in Descendants of Zombies with all of your heart, so thank you. Thank you for being the only one you that's ever existed in this lifetime. Thank you for being the beautiful souls that have saw something special in this YouTube channel. And if you've ever believed in something special having anything at all to do with Descendants of Zombies, thank you so much for allowing me to have been a part of your lives and to have represented you as your voice of Descendants of Zombies, the one and only Jonathan Clarke, yours truly. It has been the honor of my life to create content that resonates and is relatable to so many wonderful people, and I will never forget any of you for how you've touched my heart and made me feel so special, to be so honored to be a part of such a beautiful franchise that undeniably has contributed something so special to all of our lives and meant so much to each and every one of our hearts. From wherever you hear my voice tonight or watching this video or for however you found my channel, thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for having made this your favorite Descendants of Zombies YouTube channel of all time. I, of course, am your host, Jonathan Clarke, and we will resume this conversation from where we left it up, pick it right up again tomorrow morning between 8:35 and 9:05 a.m. Thank you so much for believing in Descendants of Zombies with all of your heart, and thank you so much from wherever you're watching this video for watching this video and giving me a chance to represent you as your voice of Descendants of Zombies, an opportunity I really seized and an opportunity that I will never ever forget. Thank you so much for loving Descendants of Zombies and your favorite characters and your defining moments with all of your heart, and thank you so much for having watched this video. As always, it has been my honor, forever and always.